Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPen.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton, episode 57. We got a good lineup here ahead of UFC 268, back-to-back weeks of numbered events. The return to Madison Square Garden, obviously a really good card with the two title fights at the top. Gaethje Chandler, really intriguing fight. But our first guest is going to be a fighter on the main card in Billy Quarantillo, who's fighting Shane Burgos. This should be an all-action fight. If it wasn't for Gaethje Chandler being on this card, this seems like the front runner for a fight of the night. Both guys are all action fighters. Both guys very good strikers. Burgos obviously has a knockout power. Billy Quarantillo is more of a grinder, just kind of get you out in those deep waters and really start to take over. But really good chat with Billy about this fight, finally getting that opportunity to fight a top 15 guy, and really just trying to make his way up the featherweight ranks. We're then going to be joined by Chris Curtis. Yes, Chris Curtis finally making his UFC debut. Of course, he's signed, supposed to fight Phil Hawes a couple weeks ago. The day of weigh-ins, he gets the call. He weighs in. Phil Hawes ends up not taking the fight. He says he wants a bit more notice. They get rebooked for UFC 268. But something interesting is the UFC actually were going to keep Chris Curtis around because they didn't need him for that fight. But it ended up being Sean Strickland harassing the UFC to keep Curtis, who's the main training partner in town. But this is a big fight, Chris Curtis. He's been trying to get to the UFC for years now. He retired a few years back. He didn't think he was going to get it, but now is his opportunity. We're then going to be joined by Jordan Williams to preview his fight against Ian Gary. Ian Gary's the hot new thing out of Ireland. A lot of people in Irish media think he's the next McGregor. Jordan Williams, 9-5, 2-fight losing streak. 1-2, 0-2 in the UFC. He has the win on the Contender Series, but Jordan knows he's kind of handpicked for a reason. They want to get Ian Gary a win. They want to get him a win on a big card, and they want to get him a finish. So he's here to play spoiler. He thinks he has what it takes to really ruin a lot of the plans they have with Ian Gary, who's just 23 years old and looks phenomenal already. And we close things out talking to Ode Osbourne to preview his flyweight fight against CJ Vergara. Ode coming off that loss to Manel Kopp, where he lost by knockout, but it was kind of an early stoppage. He got caught with the flying knee. He didn't seem out of it. He seemed to recover right away, but the ref jumped in, stopped it. And he's welcoming CJ Vergara to the UFC, who's coming off that really impressive 41-second knockout in the Contender Series, has some good wins on the regional scene. So really tough test for Ode, who could be fighting for his UFC job. But really good show as always. Good chat with all of them. Be sure to share the show, subscribe, tune in next week for another episode. And thank you all again for listening. All right, we're joined by UFC featherweight Billy Quarantillo, who's got a massive fight at MSG. Billy, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, when you found out you're fighting Shane Burgos, like a ranked guy, like just an all-action kind of guy, like is it basically an immediate yes when Jason calls you with that matchup?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're still we had to kind of figure out who was going to be next after my last fight, and I pretty much told him I was game for whatever. While I was on my honeymoon, they actually mentioned, they're like, dude, there's not a lot of guys above you that have been looking that good, so it could be a ranked guy. So that's what I was like, oh shit, like let's do it. They know I'm game. I didn't want to I didn't think it was necessary to like skip the line, as they say. But, everything happens for a reason. I'm coming off a huge win. And, since that fight, I've just been getting better, doing everything I could do to put together a great training camp and get this win at MSG.
And I think, too, with this fight, like when you found out, like, did it just kind of all make sense to do MSG, too, just because you guys are both New York guys?
Well, I actually, funny story, I actually, in between rounds of my last fight against Gabriel Benitez, Dana White was right there at the apex, and it's like super quiet. So like in between rounds, in between the first and second round, or no, actually in between the second and third round, because they took a little longer because they were looking at Benitez. I was telling Dana, I was like, hey man, I love this apex, but like let's get a fight in a crowd. This is my fifth fight at the apex at that point, and I think that's a record. I'm just one of those guys that apex. So in between rounds, Dana's like, all right, well, we'll see. He's like, get this one done first type attitude. And, I got it done. I got a great fight. They gave me the fight of the night. So after that, they're like Shane Burgos and MSG. So I really asked for MSG, which they gave me. And then the Shane Burgos, that's just, kind of the cherry on top, getting a ranked opponent who's super dangerous, who will definitely put on a great show with me.
Well, what have you made? I know Burgos is on a 2-fight losing streak, but what have you made of his last two fights? Like that Josh Emmett fight was one of the best fights last year. And then the Edson Barboza one was just kind of like that weird one where he got hit and then it was like 10 seconds later, he kind of got knocked out. Like out, you just kind of lost his footing, sort of.
Yeah, yeah. I watched both fights. I've said this in other interviews. I've watched both fights at the time, just as a fan of pretty much everyone involved. They were all great fights, and I didn't think I'd be fighting him this soon, but I'm really excited about it. It's like a pleasant surprise where I know I'm ready for it, but I just didn't think I would be able to climb the rankings so quickly. So I'm happy to be 4-1, and yeah, both fights were amazing. That Josh Emmett fight was great. Josh edged it out, and then another really tough fight against Barbosa. So what Burgos does. He brings it every fight. He's gonna come at me. He's gonna try to knock my head off. I'm gonna do the same thing, and it's just gonna be just an incredible fight. I can't wait for it.
Stylistically, like, how do you think you match up against him?
I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people. He's getting this. He has this rap as this big like knockout guy. This big. He's great on the feet. He's knocking people out. But I think I have a lot more. I think I have more pro knockouts than him. I'm able to hurt people. I'm able to hurt people on the feet too. And I've definitely had other fights that they said so and so is going to outstrike me. So and so is going to beat me up, do this or do that. And I've been able to prove a lot of people wrong in other fights. And I think this is just a bigger spotlight. And I like the matchup. I like how we match up on the feet. I like my grappling. I like my jiu-jitsu. It's going to be like overall as a full MMA fight. I really like my chances in this fight, and I'm going there to get the win.
Do you think to a lot of like non-hardcore fans are just going to overlook you in this fight just because they'll see the number beside Shane and just be like, oh, this is fight for Shane to get back in the win column?
Yeah, I'm sure it is, and I've been a casual fan too, where that I don't really know everyone's name even to this day. So I think the people that don't know who I am and they've seen Shane fight and they've seen Shane fight these top 10 guys, top 5 guys in the world, they could definitely write me off. A good thing, it's not going to make a difference to me. I'm dialed in, I'm focused. I got my training camp together. I know what I'm capable of, and I know at the end of the day, if I can go out there and fight my fight and fight the way I'm capable of fighting, I'm easily going to get the win. If I go out there and have a bad night, I still think I can go and get the win. So whatever it takes to get my hand raised at MSG is what I'm willing to do, whether people are writing me off or not. It's something I'm pretty much used to at this point, and I'm excited to get some new fans and prove some people wrong.
How do you kind of see this fight playing out? Because Shane, even though he got knocked out by like Cater and Barboza, like he's a very durable and tough guy to finish. Like he gets dropped a bit, but he always recovers pretty quickly.
Yeah, he could definitely take a shot, and he's one of those guys that I have good conditioning. He has good conditioning. He's not one of those guys that I'm going to try to drag into deep waters. There's some guys I feel like I could fight, and I know as long as I last until the third round, I could just wear him out. With Shane, you got to pretty much take him out. So I'm going to chip away at him. I'm going to work my striking, work everything really, and wherever the easiest path for me to get the victory, whether it's snatching his neck and getting a choke or whether it's landing that perfect shot, I think I'm going to rise to the occasion and I'm going to get it done.
Where do you think that kind of puts you? Like you just kind of take his spot at 14 and rank guys from here on out?
Yeah, just big fights. I'm excited to have the MSG fight. I think there's other fights against non-ranked guys, but I think at that point, I think climbing up from, whatever I'm in like the 20s or whatever, climbing up and being in the top 15 and being a ranked opponent, especially if I'm able to do what I'm planning on doing, and that's, putting on a show at MSG, getting a huge dominant win. I think it's top 14 up from there, keep chasing that world championship and getting some big paydays and seeing how far I can take this thing until I fight for that belt.
Is this kind of the perfect timing for you too? Because you had your honeymoon and then you're beginning of November, so you're probably done for the rest of the year. So you get to spend like the holidays and all that and don't have to worry about cutting weight or anything.
Yeah, it's perfect timing. Not only that, I'm 32 now, so I got into the sport late and I got to the UFC late. So now I'm kind of just making up for lost time. And why not? Why can't I go out there and beat Shane Burgos? It was the same people that told me I wouldn't get into the contender series. I'd never make it to the UFC. I'd never get that first win. I'd never start 3-0. I'd never go 4-1. They've been doubting me the same way. So why can't I, why can't I do it if I just work my ass off and just keep doing what I've been doing? And I'm still getting better every single day. So I like my chances in this fight. And then after that, top 15 and like, I moved to Tampa to chase a world championship, and we're still on that path. So it's a good thing.
Oh, what's that going to be like when you walk into Madison Square Garden and like it's not as a fan, it's like you're going into the locker room and like because for a New York guy, like that's probably something you probably dreamed of.
Yeah, of course. And I grew up in Buffalo, so it wasn't always. I think a fight in Buffalo for me would probably still give me that same feel. But yeah, Madison Square Garden, it's a stadium that I've talked about with people since I was a child. Competing there, just doing anything there. Being at Matt Frivola's fight, I went there to watch him when he had a draw against Landau, which I think he won still. But I feel like I had the experience of already being there, so I don't think he's got a huge advantage of. He already fought there a couple times. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a special fight, and I'm just going to go in there and make sure that my game plan's dialed in, and I've done everything a few thousand times that I know I can't miss. So it'll be a great night for me, and I'm excited for it.
Do you really plan to call anyone out, or is it just whoever the UFC gives you with a win?
We'll see. I don't really like to plan things too far in advance. Like my walkout song, I haven't picked yet. I'll it'll get closer to the fight before I pick that. If I'm gonna call someone out, it'll get closer. We'll still see how a few of these other fights play out in the division. But I know what the fans want. I know the fans want a big call out, a big name. They want to see a highlight reel finish, and followed by some drama on the microphone. So we'll think of something. I'm really focusing on the fighting part. I'm sure I'm going to be an underdog in this fight, so I'm really focused in on doing whatever it takes to get the win, and let that other stuff come as it comes.
What's it like being on this card too? Like to me, this is probably the biggest card they're doing this year.
Yeah. I just got to make the most of it. I felt like after my, I fought in I fought on a fight night the first 3 times. And then my 4th fight, they gave me a pay-per-view on the Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira, UFC 256. And I lost that fight. Then they sent me back to the fight night. I won that. So now they're giving me another pay-per-view. So I got to go and just do what I'm capable of. Don't let the moment be too big. And I know if I do what I've been doing, it's going to be a great night for me.
Is it going to be weird walking out with the fans? Like it's been like 2 years since that for you.
A little bit, but I've looked so forward to it. I think in these type of fights, there's always a balance of being nervous and being excited and being, emotional and pumped up. And I think the excitement will kind of take over the nerves a little bit, and just the excitement of being there and being a part of it. And yeah, it'll definitely be a different environment, but I think I'm prepared for it.
Is the training camp fully in Tampa with like the Frivola, or do you still go up to Buffalo the odd time to work up there?
No, this one will be 95% in Tampa. I've been in Tampa this whole time. I'll go up to New York City, like Long Island, probably a week before the fight, and train with Frivola up there, like where he lives in Long Island. But yeah, it's mostly in Tampa where I've done most of my training camps.
When do you think Frivola is going to get back in there?
He is actually on his honeymoon right now, so he will be back. My guess is in January or February. He's coming off that tough loss, that flash knockout. There's nothing we can do about it now, but I know he's a UFC caliber fighter. I know he could beat a lot of guys in the UFC and and still make a run at things at the lightweight division. So I'm thinking January or February, and I'm excited for him to get back on track. And I think he's going to have a huge 2022 season.
Would you guys want to share a card together, or is that like just too much work for you guys?
It's actually almost happened twice. We got booked on the same card for Nebraska. Well, and back in the day, as amateurs, we fought on the same card, and as pros, we fought on the same card. But in the UFC, we almost did it twice. We almost fought in Nebraska, and they canceled it because that's when COVID started. And then we were gonna fight on another card, and he broke his foot like right before, and I went out and knocked out Kyle Nelson, and he was supposed to fight someone, and he got canceled. So it might happen eventually. If not, it's all good. It is a lot different, kind of helping each other and watching each other fight. But yeah, I would do it. I'd be game. I don't know if we're gonna plan on doing it. Obviously I'm set for November. I don't know when he's gonna be good to go again, but we would both be down, I'm sure.
No more rough and rowdy corner appearances.
No, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. My brother Austin, Has never been in like a real fight before. Was trying to get on Rough and Rowdy, and so he was gonna. I talked to my guy Robbie Fox. Shout out to Robbie, and we're trying to get my brother on, but unfortunately the date is in December, and he's actually coming to Tampa to come to one of the Bills games. So Rough and Rowdy 2022 for Austin Quarantillo, my brother. It's gonna happen. So hopefully, he can get a little bit of boxing in. But yeah, we'll definitely be back at Rough and Rowdy. We have a great time with those guys. All the Barstool guys, super cool. We're fans of theirs, and we appreciate them having us.
Oh, last thing, go Bills!
Oh, go Bills! I love it. I actually have a UFC hat on now, but they've been killing it this year. This is a huge year for the Bills. Been watching every game. Glad you're repping the squad, and big things this year.
I can't believe Frivola thought the Dolphins would win.
What a clown. Well, yeah, we got Jimmy Frivola, who likes the Dolphins. They're a bunch of bums. And Maddie Frivola, who's a Jets fan. So they're all talking. They were talking trash earlier in this year, but they've been pretty quiet as the season goes on, because the Bills are, they're definitely going to go on a run this year.
All right, well, Billy, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Cole, you.
All right, we're joined by one of the newest UFC fighters, finally, Chris Curtis.
Woo!
Chris, how's it going?
It's good, man. It's been a very long time coming. It's nice to hear that, though.
Yeah, like, before we get into your fight, I just kind of want to touch on what happened a couple weeks ago. Like, we find out the day of weigh-ins, you're filling in. Like, you get the UFC deal. You're supposed to fight Phil Hawes. You weigh in, and then Phil doesn't take the fight. Like, what kind of was that 24 hours like for you?
It was weird, man. It was that Thursday. I got home from hard sparring day, hard training day. I go eat a big dinner of like chicken breast and like a pound of like 2 chicken breasts, like a pound of green beans. Go upstairs and laying down, turn my TV on. My manager comes banging on my door. I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "What do you weigh?" I don't know, man. He's like, "Get on the scale." I was 197. And he's like, "Can we make 185 by tomorrow for this fight?" And I was like, "Well, I guess we're going to." So 10 o'clock, we start cutting weight. I made weight at probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. Then we got up in the morning and went weighed in. It was a roller coaster ride, man. You're there, you weighed in. I had my first UFC weigh in. I'm like, finally. And then an hour later, they're like, here, the fight's not happening. So it was just up and down, man.
How heartbreaking was that? Because for people that like don't know you, you're a guy that should have been signed to the UFC after your Contender Series fight. You should have been in the UFC like years ago. So to finally get your shot, and then it kind of comes crashing down. Like, what were kind of the emotions like when you found out the fight wasn't happening?
It was heartbreaking, man. Honestly, excuse me. It was heartbreaking, man. Like you get the shit, you get your call, you get your shot, you weigh in. You're like, all right, I'm doing this. You get in that headspace. You're like ready to go. I'm a guy who loves to fight too. I don't get like the fear jitters. I just get excited, man. Like I'm just ready to go. I've got 34 fights now. Like I don't have that same fear anymore. Now it's just the anticipation. And like I'm finally here, I get to do it, and then stop. And you're just like, oh man. It's like all the build up and no finish, man. You're just like, what is happening right now?
Were you ever worried that maybe they would then pull your UFC contract away from you just because that fight, like, you got it because of the short notice fight? Now the short notice fight wasn't happening, and maybe they'd take it away?
Oh, I was super sick, man, because like my contract was dependent on me fighting, and I did my part. I showed up. He said no, and my first thought was like, you got to be kidding me, man! Like they're gonna fucking drop me, and it was to the point everybody freaked out. Where Sean Strickland, of all people, called Mick Maynard to like plead on my behalf, like, dude, don't cut him, like, So my manager's talking to like Mick, you gotta let him fight, man. Like I've done everything under the sun, and Mick Maynard's a great dude, man. He's just like, they told him like I've been fighting for this forever, blah blah blah. So Mick's like, we'll keep him on. So like, it's crazy when Sean Strickland calls and like goes out of his way to try to save you, like everyone else is concerned, but like Mick Maynard did me a huge solid and kept me on.
And you get this fight at like basically just rebooking the Phil Hawes fight, but just a few weeks later at middleweight. I know you fought at middleweight in the past. Like, is middleweight your new home, or is it just this was the fight offer and you had to take it?
This is the fight. They're like, I didn't really get an offer. They're like, hey, you're fighting Phil Hawes, and I'm like, okay, not gonna complain. So we don't know yet. Like we're working on I was planning on a 170 fight, so I hadn't really planned on bulking up. So then we had 3 weeks to kind of like, stabilize my weight and just be as strong as possible. So depending on how I feel in this fight, we may spend some time experimenting with seeing, can I get any stronger at 185, or I may go back to 170. It just depends on how this fight goes. But I'm not naturally a middleweight, so we'll see. We'll see how I feel. We'll see how I perform. Training's been nice. Like I don't have to go to bed hungry, which is very nice. I can eat like a lot, and I don't have to sleep hungry and miserable. But I'm also currently I don't see 200 pounds on a scale anymore. Like I'm always, around 195, 196. So if we go to 85, we're gonna have to bulk up a little bit because I'm way too small to be like a high level 85er right now. But for this opportunity, I'll gladly fight at 85. I fought bigger guys, so it's whatever.
Silver lining, I guess, too. Like obviously, you would have loved to make your UFC debut a couple weeks ago, but now you're in front of fans at Madison Square Garden. Like it doesn't really get much bigger than that for your UFC debut.
Right? Yeah. Talk about was it falling forward? Like failing forward. Like man, I definitely failed forward here. Like all right, I went from the Apex to Madison Square Garden for my debut. I'm like, this is couldn't have asked me. How many people get to debut at Madison Square Garden? So it worked out. I'll take it.
This matchup with Phil, like, how do you think you stylistically match up against him?
We're just complete opposites, man. He's a wrestler who's learning to strike. I'm a striker who's learning to wrestle. At the end of the day, though, he's a wrestler. He's got the one knockout that we all know of, but like he's not really a guy who's looking to knock people out. The guy he knocked out, I don't really think should have been there anyway, so it's different. I'm not some random guy. I think that he's going to come out. He will play for a little bit, and then I'll hit him, and he's going to start wrestling. That's it's. We all go back to what we're comfortable with when we get hurt. So, question is, who can do it longer? Can he wrestle longer, or can I defend longer? But I fought a lot of wrestlers in my time. I fought a lot of big guys in my time. It's nothing new for me. So, I mean, I think I'm the most experienced guy that he's ever fought by far, and it's not the other way around. So I'm not really too worried about it. One of my saving graces is I'm good at making adjustments in the fight, and I'm very hard to kill. So let's see.
At 85 too, like, do you just think that power is only going to increase and you're just going to have more of a power puncher? Because you already had a lot of knockouts at 70.
For me, I'm not so much the power puncher as I am extremely skilled at drowning people. Like I drown people until they don't want to fight anymore, until it gets hard. And at 85, I don't have the weight cut. I can do it at 70, but me getting to 70 takes a lot out of me. It saps a lot of energy. And like you see, I train at 190, 195 in the gym. You see my pace from 90 to 70 changes completely. At 85, my pace is phenomenal. It's even better than it was. I can keep it up for way longer. So I think my power will go up, but more so than anything, my speed and stamina is significantly better at 85 just because I don't have that massive 18, 19 pound weight cut in front of me.
How do you kind of see yourself winning this fight then? Is it basically just get him into that later rounds and get the finish then?
I plan on drowning him like a sack of dumb puppies. I'm going to drag him to the very end of this as far as I can go. And 3 weeks isn't a full camp. It's not time to do everything you want. So at this point, it's going to be about who's got the most grit. He's going to be bigger than me. He's going to be stronger than me, but I'm going to try my damnedest to drag him into that late round and just make it miserable and make him quit.
How much of a help is it that you were already preparing for a fight for November 14th? So like it's just a week earlier that you were kind of already in camp and getting ready.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's great. Like I train full time. I don't take time off. Like hell, Saturday they canceled my fight. I was working out that evening. They canceled my fight Friday. I was working out Friday night. I worked out Saturday morning. I did everything. I train full time. It's all I do. I don't do anything else. I go to the gym. I'm in the gym right now. Like this is all I do. So it helps out that I'm so consistent. The only thing I would do differently, honestly, I would love to have like more time for strength work, but you take what you can get when it comes up. So we'll make it work regardless.
You get your hand raised November 6th. Like, what are those emotions like? 'Cause this is a long time coming, not to just get the UFC, but pick up a UFC win.
For me, man, it doesn't. I don't even count it until I win. Like nothing more. I hate when people get like 1 or 2 fights in a UFC or Bellator, and they put Bellator vet or UFC vet after their name. I'm like, no, it doesn't count until you win. So like, it's awesome to be here and to be on the roster and hear UFC fighter, but for me mentally, it doesn't count until I win.
What do you think a win over Phil does for you in the UFC? Because like he's obviously a hot prospect at middleweight, but if you kind of move down to welterweight, like it still kind of holds some value there too.
It's so hilariously, we're like, man, like he's a good prospect. If I beat the shit out of him, I'm like, man, it's kind of puts me in a really weird spot to where like you go beat up Phil, they're not gonna let you go beat on low hanging fruit and new guys. I'm like, oh, all right. But at the same time, like it gets you in a better position. But I don't know, man. I'm not gonna worry about it now. Like I'm not somebody who's like, I want to jump in the title contention or like get in the top 10 guy. I'm like, no, man, I've been poor for a long time. Like this sport costs a lot of money, especially if you don't get signed. I am more than happy to wipe out the lower half of any division, whatever. Get out 4 fights, get a new contract, raise some, get my pay up, and then go from there. So I'm in no rush. I'm just trying to kill bodies, finish a contract, and get another one.
Is this contract for 4 fights, or is it still basically depending on this fight?
No, it's 4 fights. I think Mick Maynard genuinely appreciates people who are willing to take risks and who dares win. So I was like, hey, I'll do it. I think Mick Maynard greatly appreciates the attitude, especially now in an era where people don't want to fight and they find reasons not to, or they show up 20 pounds overweight for whatever. So it's he did me a solid and he gave me a 4-fight deal. So it's very, very fortunate for that.
Something you mentioned earlier that I just wanted to quickly touch on is having Sean Strickland kind of call Mick Maynard. Like, what's that like for you? Because Sean's a guy that kind of keeps to himself, and to have him kind of back you up obviously has to say a lot.
So Sean is a homie, man. Like we've known each other for like 5 or 6 years now. We've lived together at points, and Sean has seen me my highs and lows over this sport. Like this sport has driven me crazy 1,000 times. It's cost me like time for my family. It's cost me an engagement. It's cost me a lot, man. Like, Sean's watched me have like mental breakdowns, and like I'm pretty sure he watched me like destroy all the furniture in my house at one point, freaking out over something. And he's just like calmly watching me being Sean Strickland. So he of all people, he knows what this means to me, and like it's. He gets a bad rap, but he actually, when he isn't being terrible, he's actually a decent human being. But like, you just got to learn how to look through the layers. He's like an onion, like an ogre. They've got layers. But it's always nice to see your boys go out of their way to try to stick up for you and see you through. So it's good to have friends.
A bit disappointed you don't get to share the card with him, just because that fight with him and Rockhold would have been on this card as well.
Yeah, he'll be in my corner though, so he'll still be in New York, terrorizing New York as Sean Strickland does.
Who are the main people you're working with for this camp? Sean and who else?
Sean's just always my dude. We're always there. I'm at Extreme Couture full time now out here in Vegas. So I've been working with Nate Pettit as my head coach, also Eric Nipsick's the coach out here. But you've got Brad Tavares, Puno Soriano. You've got Roman, what's his last name? Doliz, which I ruined his last name. You got Islam out here. You've got there's literally everyone is here. I've got some of the best guys in the UFC in Vegas every day. So it's a great room for me, and it just proves I deserve to be there. So I've got some of the best dudes in the sport every day pushing me. So what I got to worry about Phil for?
Just a couple more things. Like, I know before the year you were saying how you wanted to fight, like, what was it, like 8 times? I think you were saying.
10.
So
I was aiming for 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So get your hand raised here. Maybe one more in this year. You think this is probably now that you're in the UFC?
I would love to get one more in this year. I would like win, lose, or draw. I would love to get one more in this year, especially if I lose. Fuck, I got bills to pay. But I would love to get this one and one more in regardless. But so all goes well, I come through with no injuries. I'm gonna tell them like, hey, throw me back in for December if something goes wrong.
Just something quickly. I never really found out the answer to it. Is when you signed with Bellator to fight Vanderford, like whatever happened with that? Did they just release you after that fight fell through?
Uh, you know what? We've never actually talked about it. We're just like, like I got COVID, fight fell through. I know I don't. I have a bad habit of not reading contracts. I should really like look over it, whatever. I don't know if it was a one fight deal or like a one fight with an option to extend, but I was just like, whatever. It fell through, and I didn't care, and I don't think Bellator cared, so nobody brought it up. Like I wasn't really super soaked about like fighting in Bellator at the time, and like I don't think Bellator really cared. So we all just kind of agreed non-verbally to not talk about it and just go our separate ways.
Just last thing, like I remember in PFL, like you retired, then you came back that later that night to fight Ray Cooper. But like, when did you like ever kind of lose faith that the UFC would never happen?
So retiring after Bellator was mostly because PFL. I mean, when I took the PFL fight, I had a really long talk with people around me about like, look, my goal from day one is I want to fight in the UFC. And my biggest fear about fighting for PFL was that if somehow shit went sideways, I would never get signed to UFC. And I go in, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. It's a chance to change my life. I go in, starts well. And then we have the hilarious fact that I'm not designed to make 170 pounds back to back. Like, just not a thing. It's not a thing. I cannot do it. And I would never try to do it ever again. You see, I fought like 4 times this year at different weights because I can't go from 70 to 70 within a couple of weeks. It's just not a thing that I can do. So lo and behold, things go sideways. And I'm just like, holy shit, I just ruined my chances to like accomplish the one goal I've had for 12 years. And that's when I was like, I have like ruined everything. And I just didn't think I was ever going to get picked up. I was pretty sure, I sealed hammered the nails in my coffin there. And that's really like when I honestly like lost hope. Like, oh my God, what have I done?
Was that the only time, or after the Contender Series did you kind of have the same thoughts?
Contenders, I was just pissed off. I was just absolutely furious. It still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I see people who win like decisions on contenders and get contracts. I see people who lose and get contracts, and I'm like, what the hell? But I competed on a time when he was dead set on only giving out 2 contracts to show max, and I think those restrictions have been loosened a bit. But I was just mad. I was over it. Like broke my hand. I go out there. I have like one of like 3 hook kick knockouts in the entire like company's history, and just to be passed over again, it was just the biggest slap in the face ever.
Well, Chris, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're joined by UFC welterweight Jordan Williams, who's returning at MSG pretty soon. Jordan, how's it going?
It's going well, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Like, that's the first thing I want to start off with. Like, you get the phone call that you're fighting at MSG. Like, what kind of goes through your head? Because kind of everyone dreams of fighting there.
Oh, dude, I thought of like, man, like my fight name is Boomaye, like Ali Boomaye, and Ali has fought there. It's just such a monumental arena, and it's like the world's most famous or notorious arena. So it's an honor. It's like nothing short of an honor to be in there.
Was this the right time for you? Because this is a fairly quick turnaround after your last fight.
Hmm. I mean, it's a quick turnaround, but as long as we're all healed up and everything is, all pistons are firing, like, why not? MSG and that we like the opponent. We are compiling the game.
You keep cutting out.
Shoot. Sorry. I'm sorry. The service here at my house is not the greatest.
No worries.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you now.
All right. Yeah, like the pieces are lining up. If they continue to line up medically and systematically with this fight. Why not? Because we're always in training camp. So, that's how Coach Mark runs things. We're always ready. We're always, like when you have a fight, that means you get a week of less hard training than everyone else. It's like that's how things run here. So, why not? Like we're using my body, we're firing up, it's ready. So, you know, this would be a good opportunity for me.
Oh, what you take away from your last fight? Because you returned to welterweight in quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Weight cut was fine. On the night of uh weight cut, like the night before I got on the scale that morning, I lost 8 pounds in an hour, and then I got underweight, ate about 2 pounds, or drank a pound, ate a pound, and then floated off or had to get into like the sauna and like sweat off point 0.8 in the morning. So um the weight cut wasn't an issue for me. Like that's out of my head. Like we did really well with our weight cut. It's the thing I got to take away from this fight is my tendencies when I'm striking, and to be more like follow the game plan and just be more, have a target and have a goal and strive through it, not just be so reactive and so and too much in the moment. Be in the moment, slow things down, but also train our game plan and make sure it gets executed at the end by the end of the fight.
And Ian Gary, like he's a guy that's very hyped up. Like, how much do you know about him?
I know about his combinations, and what do you think I'm gonna do tonight? Like I'm gonna be watching him again. So I know enough about him, like I know that he's hyped up on the regional scene, but um, I've been swimming with sharks, for a while. I've had 5 fights. I've had 2 fights in the UFC, but 5 under Dana White, in total. So that's a lot of high level competition that I've had to deal with, and I don't know who he's dealt with on these regional scenes or how old they were or whatever. Like, but I've been fooling with some sharks for a while now, and like, if he wants to jump in the tank, I'll welcome him in.
Like, is this an exciting matchup for you just because he is undefeated and has a lot of this hype? So if you win, like, you can steal a lot of that hype in his fans.
Goose egg season. You know what I'm saying? It's goose eggs. 100% goose eggs. I got one. I got one in the basket. I think at least one. And like I haven't had. Oh, I had a chance to take another one, but by the judges, I lost. But like back in tennis series fight, but Dana said I won. I love hunting goose eggs. Right? Fuck it. Like you never been there before. Like you never felt like there's a certain hunger someone has when the back's against the ropes, and your back's never been there. Well, let's see how you fight off the rope.
Do you think your back is against the wall then? Like, do you think this is kind of do or die for your UFC career?
At the moment, yes. Yeah. I mean, why not? I put on a show. It's like finish or be finished. That's how it is for him. That I usually do. Granted, my first fight was a decision. Like I go hard for the company, and everyone knows that. But you got to show up, and I haven't shown up the last 2 fights. So for myself, not only for like, more importantly, is do that for me. Like I have to really search inside my soul and find the strength and talk to myself and be like, hey, like this is what you want to do. You're here, like you want to do it, and like I know in me, I want to do it at the best level, and so like I think every competitor should tell themselves that every fight's do or die, and especially one who's smart and looks at the situation. Like I can't patty cake right now. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna execute our game plan. We're doing everything we can outside of training. So this is do or die for sure.
How do you kind of see this fight playing out?
You know, I play I see this fight playing out, me just running my game plan, me executing our game plan. I feel like, he's strong and he's well known on the regional scene, but that's a different pressure when you're fighting in the UFC. And I'm gonna make sure I apply that pressure. That's how I see this fight going. Is me, is uh applying that pressure and keeping my contract.
What do you think a win over Ian does for you? Just because he has a lot of hype, a lot of people think he's going to be like this big star in the UFC.
I think it does whatever it wants from me. I take it for like I'm gonna stop him. It depends. It depends on how I stop him. But if I stop him in stylistically fashion, like yeah, it'll jump me a little bit of credit. I feel like he hasn't even fought in the UFC yet. I'm his test, and so if I beat him, really at the end of the day, it means like it means for me I belong, and like I'm not gonna take it. I'm gonna be humble and win or defeat. And if I win, like I'm not gonna be like, oh, this means like I fucking get to fight so and so. Like, no, that means that I'm gonna get back to work. That's all that means. Like, and I'm gonna keep striving to the goal and the dream that I've had. I don't know what it's gonna mean to the world because the messages that you receive from people say they go all different sorts of things. But I know for me, what it's gonna mean is that it's gonna solidify my drive, my passion, and my dream, and just to keep going for it.
What's it going to be like to be fighting in front of fans, like sold out crowd in New York as well?
Okay, man, that's the thing I'm actually super hyped about. The I got my contract during COVID, and I've had contender series fights with so there's basically an empty arena, or it's just like there's no crowd. So now that I finally get to be in the crowd, be in the arena, and it just means a lot. It just means that it's gonna complete um like the whole visual aspect I thought of when I first thought of fighting for the UFC, like like 10 years ago. You're like, oh, I think of fighting in front of a lot of fans, and now that's finally coming into fruition. So I feel great. I love it, and man, just like it means the world to me. And I like so it's gonna be more of a drive. I'm not gonna get fucking blinded by the lights, and have that pressure. It's just gonna feel like yes, like this is what that feeling it feels like, and I finally get it. And I want to keep it.
Training at Factory X, like what's it like training camp now? Because one of the best gyms, Mark Montoya, like one of the best coaches as well.
Um. Well, before I say the answer, I'll correct you. He is the best coach.
Yeah.
Around, and I appreciate me being part of the team. And what it's like is it's a humble reminder, it's sweet bitter taste of what this game is. That's what like he'll be a father figure, he'll be a guidance figure for you. But at the end of the day, like we're fighting, and it's in my best interest and his best interest if he keeps like it's like close connection, but he keeps us on the business sake. Like, hey, like we got to work on this, we got to work on that. You got to be um growing and gaining, and his big thing that he's been going over is listening, not hearing, and really listening to what he's saying and use it. So um he has a roster, and he says he can only do so many people on the mat. So if you're on this mat, just stay on this mat, because whenever you see a new face come on this mat, you might be the old face leaving it, because there's only a number that he keeps. So it's like after you feel the love, you feel the support, but you also feel like the pressure and the heat. Like, you got to be there. You got to be like, this has to be your um your everything. And that's what fighting for Coach Mark is like a reminder of that.
Just last thing, like you get your hand race here. Like, when's that ideal time frame? I assume probably early next year.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
You get your hand race here. Like,
Okay, yep.
are you hoping one more this year? Or do you think it's probably not going to get one more? It's probably going to be early next year, your next fight.
With this answer honestly goes fight by fight. If I get my hand raised, but it's a 3-round war, I'll take some damage for this W. Um, like however long it takes for me to be healed up enough from the aftermath of this fight, and that's when I want to go in. A win is a big, investment in confidence, and you don't want to let that, dwindle. So, and time, no matter what, if you win or lose, time is a dwindler. It fades, it just fades away your confidence. So, I want to get in there as soon as I can, and whenever I'm healthy.
All right, well, Jordan, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right, brother. No worries.
All right, we're joined by UFC flyweight Ode Osbourne, who is back at Madison Square Garden for a big fight. Ode, how's it going?
It's going well, man. How's it going with yourself?
Really good. I just first want to quickly touch on your last fight against Manel Kopp. That was going your way. It was a really good performance and kind of that flying knee. I didn't think you were out. I thought it was a bit early. Like, what were your kind of thoughts on that stoppage?
Well, I was mad when the ref stopped me, and I was just like, "No!" I was yelling like, "No! What are you doing?" You know what I'm saying? I was real mad. I was real bitter, but it's the fight game, man. There's nothing you can do about it after the fight happens and after the ref makes a decision. You just got to move on from it. You know what I mean? I don't really like fighters who complain a lot, to be honest with you. Like I that's one of my biggest pet peeves is fighters who complain after they lose. So I tried not to do that, but I wanted to keep fighting.
Have you watched that fight back, or is that one that it's just like it kind of annoys you with how it ended?
No, man, you got to watch your losses back. That's how you improve, I was annoyed, yes, but I watched it.
And your opponent, CJ Vergara, like, did you see his fight on the Contender Series? It was obviously very impressive.
I did not. I know he won via body knee in 2 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was under a minute. It was like 40 something
seconds. Yeah. I know he won. I didn't see it though. I mean, there's really no point in watching it because I know he won by knee via knee to the stomach. So there's not much to really. If it's only 40 seconds, there's not really much of a fight to watch. There's no point of watching it. You know what I'm saying? If he had fought 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a whole 15 minutes, then I could really study him and his movements and his motions and how he flows. But there's really not much for me to study in 40 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
Was this kind of the right time for you to return? I think it's a lot sooner than a lot of people thought, just because you fought in August and you're turning in November, which is a pretty quick turnaround for a lot of people.
Hey, I like to fight. You know what I mean? I do like to fight, man. I'm happy that the UFC is finally letting me fight. You know what I'm saying? I went a whole year without one fight during COVID, so I'm like, yeah, man. I love to fight. So it's interesting now because I quit my job and I moved out to Vegas and I'm at Syndicate now, so I've been training just nonstop. So it's different. Usually I got school and other stuff to worry about. I don't have to worry about anything but training. I get to utilize the PI, all kinds of stuff. So
when did you quit your job? Because I remember even talking to you before the Manel fight. You were at the school we were doing the interview.
Yep, I did, man. I left and came out here to Vegas after that Manel fight.
Is that something you just thought was always going to happen and that loss just kind of made you realize it had to happen a lot sooner?
Not really. I didn't always think it was going to happen, to be honest. It was it was something that I enjoyed my job. You know, I really I love working with the kids. So I didn't want to leave. You know what I mean? I really didn't want to leave. But you know, the gym I was at, I think, you know, me and the coaches were just not really seeing eye to eye, and you know, I kind of was just I feeling like I was there by myself. You know what I'm saying? You come a point in life where you kind of feel like you're on a journey by yourself. That's when you need to switch things up. So after that Manil fight, I definitely felt I already knew kind of where I wanted to go, but after that Manil fight, I was just like, you know what? I need to change, because I enjoy working with kids, and I need for them to see what success looks like. So how can I show that to them without being successful? And you know what I'm saying? I got nothing to offer right now. And so I have to set that example for them to sacrifice. You got to be able to sacrifice everything to achieve everything.
And how'd you settle on Syndicate? Is that something that you've been there before, or how did you kind of get there?
Well, the coach, John Wood, is just a very amazing guy. If you ever met John, um, I say this all the time, but he reminds me of my very first trainer who, you know, he passed away in a motorcycle accident, but he was a very awesome guy. His name was Reese. He loved to coach. You know what I'm saying? He had that passion for teaching, you know. But yeah, John reminds me of that, because you can see when we do pads and everything, when he's talking about fighting, when it could be whatever. He's very passionate about it. You know what I'm saying? So it was an easy decision to make. I didn't really need to go here, come to Vegas, and check out any of the gyms. As soon as I met John and went to Syndicate, it was just like, okay, all right, I'm home.
And then you obviously get the PI too, and so many fighters travel through there. So how much is a benefit that, where it's
Yeah,
like a second gym where you get a bunch of high level fighters through there?
yeah, for real. And a lot of people come out to Syndicate too. You know, Aljamain Sterling was just there the other day. Dan Hooker's there right now, just hanging out, training. You know, Vinny. There's a nice body size for me to work with. So
And this fight, you get the phone call or the email, whatever it is, but at Madison Square Garden, like, is it just an immediate yes when you found out that was the venue?
yes, it was.
Is that something you've kind of dreamed about? Because whenever I talk to fighters, it's always get to the UFC and fight to Madison Square Garden are kind of their like first two goals they kind of set out, other than being champion, obviously.
Um, yeah, it's always something I've dreamed about, but you know, my aspirations have changed. So my dreams are still the same, but my aspirations have changed. Meaning, I'm no longer excited about fighting at Madison Square Garden. I know it sounds crazy. I'm excited about fighting.
Yeah.
I'm not excited. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's why I say that. Like I'm blessed, and I feel like I'm so happy that I got this opportunity to fight at Madison Square Garden, right? Like, don't you know what I mean? I'm the opportunity, amazing. What I mean is, once you fought in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena or MGM or wherever, then you pretty much fought everywhere. You know, the excitement. You know, so now you got to like dial in. After I win, then I'll be excited about Madison Square Garden. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right now, I just got to remain grounded. You know what I'm saying? Not too much here, not too much here. Just right in the middle. You know, a lot of confidence, not a lot of ego. It's like keeping the balance. You know what I mean? So after I get the win, then I'll be excited about Madison Square Garden. It'll be like, man, that was amazing. I just fought in Madison Square Garden. Not once. Everyone had asked me that. People were like, hey, so you excited about Madison Square Garden? I'm like, not yet.
Yeah. How much do you know about your opponent? Just because he's a guy that doesn't have any UFC fights, like I know it's hard to kind of keep track of all those guys coming up.
I don't know too much about him, to be honest. He doesn't have many footage on the web or whatever, but I never really have been one to look into my opponents. I just go out there and fight my fight. You know, you get too hung up on your opponent's strengths and you don't do what you're supposed to do.
How do you kind of see this fight playing out then?
Same thing. I don't really. If you'd asked me this question 2 years ago, I would have been like, man, I see myself getting a knockout or something like that or something stupid. But I don't know. You know what I mean? It could go a fight could go anywhere. This you can't see one thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to like analyze everything. That's another thing why I like John, because he plans for everything. When we're doing our pad work, he's like, if he does this, we do that. If he does that, we do this. If he does this, we do that. You know what I'm saying? There's all these different variations to countering anything that he tries or does. So the fight could go anyway.
The flyweight division, obviously, it's shallower than compared to other divisions. Like, what do you think a win over CJ like puts you in the division?
I don't know. You know, I guess we'll just have to hope and see. You know, I have no idea actually.
I'm not sure how much you care about this, or this might be something that you look at after the fight. But is it kind of surreal? You're for 4 UFC fights in, and you're going to be on like 2 of the biggest cards in recent memory, in McGregor, Cowboy, and then obviously this card, which is massive.
No, I don't think about that stuff, man. Like I said, it's all surreal and stuff. It's all cool. I'm blessed. I'm honored. I'm humbled. I'm appreciative. I am grateful and I have so much gratitude. But at the end of the day, the job isn't done. You know, the goal is to be a UFC champion. So I can't let these little nuances take me off my path. You know, you can't. I think that's what happened to McGregor. You know, I think he let the hype get him off the train. You're supposed to be the hype train. You gotta stay on the train. You know.
I know you're someone that really doesn't call out many people. It's more whatever the UFC offers you. So is it the same thing here? Like, get your hand raised and just kind of whatever UFC and management.
Yeah, everybody they've offered me, I've been like, yeah, let's do it. I don't say no to fights. I'd say I'm like easy to work with. You know what I'm saying? Anytime they're like, hey, let's get a fight. Does a day want to fight? I'm like, yeah, I want to fight. Let's go.
Do you think this is probably it for you though this year? Just because early November, it would be hard to get another one in.
Shit, if I get if things go smooth and I'm in there and things go real smooth, like first round smooth,
Like
shit,
first couple
sign
seconds.
me up. Look, sign me up again. Get me in there in December. You know what I mean?
Going back in front of fans too, like what's that going to be like for you?
I mean, I've experienced it. It was.
Yep.
It doesn't make a difference, to be honest. You know, it really doesn't. It's like once you're dialed in, you're not even like focused on the fans, really. I mean, I'm not.
Just last thing, like how much better do you think you will be come November 6th now that you kind of have a full camp and everything in Vegas? Like it seems like you've been adding a lot.
Yes, I think people are gonna see a new me. Let's just say that. I think people are gonna see a new me.
All right, well, Ode, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.